please put away cell phones. If you need to conduct personal business during the meeting, please make a motion for a recess. For those participating by phone, please ensure your phone is muted unless you are speaking. Also, when speaking, please remember to state your name for the benefit of those streaming the meeting. As a reminder to all attendees, this meeting is being streamed live. The camera is located at the back of the council chambers above the clock. Our meetings are governed by Robert's Rules of Order in accordance with Wasilla Municipal Code 2.04.090. In order to maintain an orderly and respectful discussion, I respectfully request the council to observe the following guidelines. Please seek recognition before speaking. No member may speak more than twice on the same motion without an affirmative vote to suspend the rules. No member may speak a second time on a matter until all others who wish to speak have had an opportunity to do so. These rules are in place to ensure that everyone's right to speak is respected and to prevent any one voice from dominating the discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cottle.
Here.
Councilmember Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Crafton.
Here.
Councilmember Vilot.
Here.
Councilmember Rubio.
Here.
You do have a quorum, Madam Mayor. All members are with us present in council chambers. Council seat C is currently vacant.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Mr. Crafton, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. The first item of business is approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move item 8.4.1 to new business, please. Which is resolution serial 2513 AM 2517, resolution 2513 and AM 2517. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Rubio.
Madam Mayor, can I move resolution serial number 2514, 2515, 2516, and then 2517
To new business.
to new business, please?
Okay.
And then
Go ahead.
can I move AM 2518 and 2519?
Got all that, Jamie?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare? So hearing none, the agenda is approved as amended unless objection is raised. Okay. We are at special orders of the day. The City of Wasilla proclamation recognizing National Telecommunicators Week. Whereas National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week is held annually during the second week of April to honor telecommunications personnel for their commitment, service, and sacrifice. And whereas these dedicated professionals are the unsung heroes who work tirelessly, often behind the scenes to ensure the safety and well-being of our community. And whereas telecommunicators demonstrate exceptional skill and compassion under pressure while responding to emergencies, offering critical guidance, and dispatching resources. And whereas their commitment to public service and their ability to adapt to ever-evolving technologies make them an indispensable part of our public safety team. And whereas MATCOM public safety dispatchers are in charge of identifying a caller's needs calmly and proactively and dispatching law enforcement officers and emergency responders in a timely and efficient manner. working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And whereas this week is a time to recognize and thank telecommunications personnel across the nation who serve our communities, citizens, and public safety personnel, as the public safety system would not operate without them. Now therefore, I, Glenda D. Ledford, Mayor of the City of Wasilla, hereby proclaim April 13th through April 19th, 2025 as National Communicators Week in the City of Wasilla, and call upon all residents to join me in expressing our heartfelt gratitude to the telecommunicators who serve as the first responders in ensuring the safety and security of our community. Dated this 14th day of April, 2025. Michelle and Lori, would you come forward, please? And previous council member Johnson, would you come forward, please? Present you with this small token of appreciation for your service to our community and for your continued support as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mayor, if I may have 30 seconds of everybody's time.
Absolutely.
I've considered it a real honor and a privilege to have served on the city council. I consider you all not only my colleagues, but my friends. I am going to be with you in thought and spirit as you continue the hard work that you've got ahead on the budget and the rule-making, which I know is on your plate coming forward. And I wish I could be there to help and support you, but be assured that you are on my thoughts and prayers as you go through this very difficult time. I regret that my health has not prevented me from completing my term, but I do believe that Wasilla is a great city with a very bright future. Best wishes and my thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, where's Jamie? Oh, there she is. Okay, we will now hear from the city planner on the Planning Commission.
Good evening. This is City Planner Wellman, and I just wanted to get a very brief update tonight. So we just had our regularly scheduled meeting on the April 8th, and it was a rather light agenda, but these light agendas do provide for me to have the ability to provide a planning department update. So you can always listen to those on the previous meetings if you're interested in hearing about some of those things going on in the planning department. We also had an economic update by Deputy Administrator Nygaard and a brief question and answer period that happened during that time. We also, on our April 22nd meeting is scheduled, but we will be canceling that. So we got to learn about how to cancel a planning commission meeting now under our new revised code, and it called for us to be able to have a little dialogue with our acting mayor at the time. Mayor Ledford was just out for a day or two last week. And so our finance director, Cassie Olin, stepped in along with the clerk's office and Lisa, and we worked through that process. So we will be canceling the meeting on April 22nd. We were scheduled to have a light meeting on that agenda, and it felt better to go ahead and cancel. we do have quite a few big things coming that are in the works, and so this worked out really well. The one other update that I had was that for the comprehensive plan, the project manager is finalizing the list of city staff and city elected and appointed officials that will be receiving our initial survey for the comp plan. So be looking for that in your inboxes. Thank you.
Thank you. And now our director report for this month is from Wasella's Police Chief, Chief Rapson.
Set the slideshow on this. Oh, yeah, that would work. Okay. Before we get started, I just want to say to the men and women of MATCOM, we appreciate everything that you do from WPD. Thank you for your hard work, your dedication, and professionalism working together. I certainly, absolutely no way could be up there doing what you guys do, and what you do is absolutely outstanding. So we appreciate you, so thank you very much. This week, or this update, it's been a lot of information in here. I'm gonna start off with our personnel update. We are currently down 3 vacancies right now. We had one that was infield training program, decided to move back down to North Carolina. His wife got military orders, and they were able to ship out. So as of the time I did the PowerPoint, we had 8 new applicants, but I know that a bunch got pushed forward today, so we're vetting them out right now. And we got one that's in the final stages of our hiring process. I'm anticipated that there's some good applicants on paper right now that are looking pretty good, so hopefully that we can kind of grab a couple out of there. As you all may have known, that K-9 officer Buzzard and a K-9 Echo retired back in March. Echo was 8 years old, and Officer Buzzard spent over 30 years in public safety, and he went with the retirement of K-9 Echo and decided to move back down to Washington to be closer to family and kind of deal with some family matters, and we surely miss both of them. Echo was the boss in the PD. We let her run kind of the department, and we accommodated her. But with that there, that she was a great teacher to our new K-9, Senta J, which I'll kind of show you here a little bit, which is probably a mini Echo, and I'm pretty happy about kind of how the progress that she's come along as a puppy. We do have a Sergeant Ridge retiring. April 30th is his last day officially. May 1st, I believe we're having his party for him. He did over 30 years of public safety in Alaska, and his retirement, I believe he's gonna go and kind of work on a farm and go enjoy his retirement years, still living in the state. So. And that with that, I have 2 additional retirements that I'm gonna be expected to have within 24 months. And so we're kind of making the preparations to kind of plan for that moving forward. We recently, over the course of a year, we promoted 2 detectives. It's Detective Baker and Detective Moyer. And we have, with the anticipation with Sergeant Ridge leaving here pretty soon, we are in the testing process for a sergeant's position. We have 4 applicants for that, and they are in the process of studying for the testing that's coming up here pretty quickly. Over the course of relatively soon, we ended up wanted to kind of reach out and do some revamping of how we recruit, and we ended up reaching out with a local vendor here, and they created a website. It's not showing. I'm sorry. It's not. Did I not do something? I just happened to catch it that it's not coming up on the screens.
Mm-hmm.
Did you mean that clicker, not the mouse?
It's
No, I
not
broke
synced.
it.
It's not synced, yeah. But you can see it there. Can I?
Absolutely.
Sorry.
They gotta see the pictures.
Let's see what's going on. How's it even doing that?
I broke it.
We'll take a brief at ease.
Probably mess with that audio, weren't you? The audio break it.
No, the audio's, we got that all worked out.
Perfect, there we go. Use a clicker.
Okay,
All right.
we're back on the record at 6:15.
All right, there's a brief description of our personnel update, kind of summarize what I had said. That's our new webpage, joinwasilipolice.org. Did an excellent job with that. It was a local vendor. They made a short video. Looks really well. Really reaches out to the public and kind of highlights a lot of the benefits that we do as WPD, and kind of highlights a lot of the officers to show what we have to offer, and I couldn't be happier with the end result on that. Here's some short statistics that we've had since July 1st, 2024 to current present. Roughly, I have the ability to pull a lot of statistics, and these are just kind of the meat and potatoes of things. WPD calls for service today was about 18,500. We've done 4,100 traffic stops, 117 DUIs, and 684 arrests. Roughly, case reports about 2,600. That's including both non-criminal and criminal reports, and our co-compliance that calls for service is about 817. Obviously, a lot of that I can break down into specifics, but just to kind of keep it summarized of what they've been doing since the start of the fiscal period. But I'm anticipating that we'll probably end up around 24,000, 25,000 calls for service for this fiscal period, which has steadily been increasing for the last 10 years, has been consistently going up. This is a retirement that we had for Canine Buzzard and Echo, and that is a true picture of her in the middle of how she was. You wouldn't think that she was a dual-purpose dog, but she was a great dog that was around the PD, and everybody enjoyed having her around, and she was just a sweetheart. This is our new dog, Cinta J. She's like a mini Echo, and she has a great drive. Canine Officer Nate LaCours is the new officer, and he was down in Alabama, did training, 10-week training with her. She comes from Belgium, Denmark area. She just recently received a ballistic and stab protective vest that was donated by Vest Interest of Canines Incorporated. It's a 501c3. That was sponsored by a fundraiser hosted by Beth Frank up in North Pole. So we were very thankful for that donated gear for her to keep her safe. I also want to add out that what Officer Nate LaCours is wearing is one of our new updated ballistic helmets that we ended up putting in for the budget last year. That's the body armor that we wear. Officers wear it, has that tag, and it's a 10-year ballistic expiration on that. So that's our new purchase that we were able to get all the officers with the support from council last budget season. Since 2002, I believe, WPD hasn't sent anybody to command school. And command school in the law enforcement world is a very extensive 10-week resident program. And I was happy to get Lieutenant Rader back in last April 2024 down to Phoenix, and that's through the Northwestern Public Safety School and Command, where he was down there with Commander Zipski with the Palmer Police Department. They were able to share a lot of the costs with that and share a room and to go down there. He graduated. I didn't get an opportunity to extend his congratulations on that. And then recently, and there's a picture of his graduating class. And then recently, Lieutenant Lopez was just graduated from the FBI National Academy in Quantico. That also is a 10-week resident program, and they're very, very intense, very in-depth training that betters, both of them will better the future and the growth of the department as years to come with their training and the knowledge that they received out of that program. And that's him meeting the new director. One of the things that we concentrated on, other than the typical calls for service, and unfortunately, there's been a lot of calls for service that WPD has been involved in recently. Some of those calls that I can't really get into detail about, but I think that you kind of get the headlines of kind of what's been going on in the papers. Those are still active cases, and I can't really get into the details, and so I kind of wanted to shift towards what of our community involvement that we're doing, and what we have been doing. There's a group of our colleagues in the area with Palmer PD, AST, and with us have been getting together with the Explorer program. And what we find over the course of it is that we're having a hard time getting recruitment numbers in through the doors. And what we're trying to do is mentor those young kids that are going through high school in that young age, to have a mentor that they can kind of teach them the ways to say, hey, listen, some of your decisions as you do as a young kid could have effects on when you get to be 21 and 22. And it kind of gets them interested in kind of guiding them, making those good choices, because we found between about 18 and 21, we really didn't have anybody there. And if we can kind of help and steer a good decision-making process between that 4-age gap, if it can increase our recruitment numbers, whether it's with WPD, Palmer, AST, or any other agency, we find that to be a huge benefit. And believe that there's 27 Explorers right now. We hosted at WPD, and everybody volunteers their time to go and teach their kids of the profession of law enforcement, where they're able to do handcuffing and just do the skills and the programs that we do, and teaching them what's expected in some of the fun stuff that's involved with law enforcement. Just recently, Wasilla PD was the recipients of the Burt Cottle Community Champion Award that was presented by the Greater Wasilla Chamber of Commerce. It was over at their annual meeting over at Everett's. I was happy to accept that award, being a community champion, and shared around through the PD, and it was a very well earned from everybody there. Has worked hard, and it just shows a standard of excellence that we provide to have every day. One of the things that we are very involved in, which was a big want that I wanted, was to get every officer in a PD CIT trained, which is the crisis intervention training, to work on de-escalation, work on mental health, work on emotional distress and disturbed individuals, to work on and have like one of those tools in the toolbox to help out with dealing with people that are having a crisis, that we have a better outcome than what we typically have had in the past. We are currently hosting a class starting today. It's 40 hours, and we typically will host one class. WPD will host one class once a year, but the facility that we sponsor will host 2 classes, 2 CIT trainings twice a year. It's a very extensive program that we work partnerships with the Matsu Health Foundation, MCT, and a lot of the non-profit sponsors that are helping to kind of reduce the amount of calls that law enforcement responds to, and putting them in line with people that can make a difference and get them to the right resources that they may need. Back in January, the Sunrise Rotary, we named Officer Ryan Hellman the Officer of the Year. There's no question that Officer Hellman has a service above self motto, and I was honored to be a part of that and honor Officer Hellman with that Sunrise Rotary Officer of the Year award that was at the windbreak in late January. Our SRO program continues to strive. I would constantly hear a great benefit on how they are working with the kids through the schools, through Wasilla, Reddington, and Houston. We work hand in hand with the school district to reduce, the threats and investigate threats or any kind of issues that arise at the school, and also work with parents and work with the students to educate as we move forward. So it's continuing to be supportive, to have the individuals in there to kind of continue to move forward with that. We also had an alliance with the Drug Endangered Children. We have partnership with the Matsu Alliance, and basically we help families to help provide hope and support to our community around substance use concerns and predicting our future. Our other partners are State Troopers, Palmer, OCS, Kinnick and Chickaloon Tribes, and the Alaska Youth and Family Services, and Set Free Alaska. So we play a part in that, reporting those dangerous situations where we're responding to a call and there's a child involved and there's substances involved with that, and then we'll get them in touch with the right resources so that the kids have really a avenue that, and an advocate for them when other ways that they may not. We participate with Walmart Shop with a Hero event. These are just some photos that we did back during Christmas time where we shop with a kiddo with a one-on-one interaction. We are currently going to be, again, doing with the Special Olympics Torch Run. That's going to be on May 25th this year. We participate with that. Just recently, we just this last weekend, we were with the annual Chutes and Ladders game, and I believe the Chutes won. I'll throw that out there, like the 10th time in a row. But hey, it's the fire department, so don't expect too much. So. And then in January, we do the annual Guns and Hoses hockey game. We have Lieutenant Lopez that represents WPD in that game. I can't say it. I probably should have paid attention to my slide before I said that, because I think they got one over us on that one. So some of our ongoing training is our CIT, our active shooting threat training, our alert, our pit pin, firearms, low light, no light. These are just highlighting some of the constant training that we're doing, the commercial motor vehicles, accident reconstruction, and our UAS drone operations, which we have really moved forward with applying that on a regular basis. And I will be straightforward, is that drone operations was never in my wheelhouse, but I understood it, and I am completely sold on that, and you'll see kind of some things here in a minute. We also partnershiped with the Alaska National Guard Counter Drug Support Program, and they had the Lakota training. They are a huge support out here. They're counter drug. Anything that we need to do for drug investigations, they have the assets and some of the, as you can see, some of the equipment to help out with that, and they are always eager to help out. And we conducted some training with them I believe that was last spring, about a year ago, I believe it was. So this right here is our unmanned aircraft, our drone, and I'm just going to give you a little clip. And what this is that it was a suspect that had fled a vehicle and he footbailed into a wooded area and attempted to conceal himself. What you'll see is the drone footage and hopefully some radio traffic from that, with the coordination of a drone operator flying overhead, coordinating with the K9 team, with some cover officers that may look like it's pretty in a line of sight, but when you're in a wooded area, just those two assets working hand in hand with each other, that it's quite a great outcome. And that's the K9 team here on a track with the K9, and our officer Cody Rice is just getting ready to launch the drone. It will go here in a minute. So that's the drone operator explaining to the team on the ground. See the team there in the center four that are spanning out with the dog, and then you will see the suspect laying along the tree line. He's laying down, proned out, or laying down trying to hide. You'll see the railroad tracks on the right. And this is what our FLIR program on the drone, and he's probably flying overhead quite a bit where he's not going to alarm the suspect. And they are in verbal contact, making up their approach. and the suspect is in custody. And that kind of highlights how quick we can deploy a drone relatively quickly when a suspect foot bails, or if we have to do a accident reconstruction, we're able to fly that drone over top of the intersection and make forensic mapping and detail and document. They have a huge asset in the ability to deploy quickly to reduce the amount of times. But I'm just amazed on how much we use that on a regular basis and how big of an asset it is to the department. Since we had applied for a statewide drug enforcement unit with the SDEU, we were able to put a detective in there that is federally funded through the JAG program. Since him being over there, working with the SDEU unit, there's been about $130,000 in currency. As you can see, 85 grams of cocaine, 497 of methamphetamine, 7.96 grams of heroin, and 2,200 grams of fentanyl, and numerous firearms. And that's just kind of what they've been taking off since October 24th of this year, after renewal of it and the numbers prior to that. And I believe he started in March or April of 2024. And the numbers are quite high for that short time period to the beginning of the federal fiscal period, which would have been in October. So he's in there for another year. I anticipate that will get funded again. He has been instrumental to be a part of that team, and we continue to support that, especially with the numbers that that team right now is getting the drugs off the street. Some of the CIP projects that was approved last year is underway with the ground kind of the winter, the way it's been doing. Big Dipper is over there currently right now doing some work with our hills, kind of getting those things down. We were able to get a bulk fuel station with the help of Public Works to have a dedicated fuel system with 5,000 gallons available rather for us for emergency situations or natural disasters. We're putting up some perimeter fencing to help secure that area and keep it secured for outdoor evidence and some other perimeter parking and staff parking. And then you can kind of see the dirt work. So we're really optimistic, and I'm looking forward to the end result in that. So that is the end of my summary. And if you have any questions, or be free to answer them the best that I can.
Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Chief. Very informative. Nice to see that. It is nice to see that the department is following up on some things that the council has been concerned with for years, particularly advanced training within the department, so that we have people ready to move up. The establishment and support of the Explorer program, so we have more people familiar with what it is that you do, and hopefully will end up being a recruiting tool for the future. That is great to hear. But I do have a couple of questions. One regarding recruitment. A friend of mine who's retired from another department out of state said that when the military started doing their, when people say they're getting out of the military now, basically they give them a couple months where they can go and train and look around and find jobs and things like that. He said that their department had developed kind of like a 2-day ride-along program, kind of one day where they just come in and then they talk to the officers and they, find out what the department's all about and where its focus is and what the issues are and what that person could expect if they were to join the department, and then actually a ride-along, with an FTO to see what's going on. Does our department do that, or do you see
Not specifically. Yeah, I do see the value in it, but we don't specifically do that. But what we do have done in the past is going on base. We do have some military veterans that are with us, and they'll have the ability to get on base during a recruitment thing, and we invite them out. But we haven't specifically come out and went to those type of engagements saying, hey, come out and do a ride-along. We always encourage that. That specifically, no, I have not, but that'd be something that if there's a contact that we could reach on base, then we could definitely look at that to set that up. That'd be something I'd be wholeheartedly interested in.
Okay, I'll see what I can find out, but yeah, I know we're always short. I know, currently we're short 3 patrol officers essentially, and we've been short at times up to 8, which is scary. But yeah, so anything we can do or anything the public can think of that would help us recruit would certainly be helpful, and I'd be happy to talk about that. The second thing I have has to do with the use of our patrol officers outside the city limits of Wasilla. Obviously, it's to our benefit to provide backup to the state troopers, and their benefit to provide backup and guidance to us for things that happen outside the city limits. But I see our cops way outside the city limits. I mean, most recently, I think I read in the paper, officer-involved shooting Settlers Bay, or nothing against Settlers Bay, but in the area of Settlers Bay. That's, 8.8 miles down the road, probably 5.5 miles from our city limits. And I know that we will, if there's a pursuit established within the city limits and it continues outside the limits, our officers will stay with that. But who makes the call on how many officers we can put outside the city limits at any one time? I mean, obviously, we're in a situation where we end up in an officer-involved shooting. That's, not an everyday thing, of course, but I mean, it started off not as an officer-involved shooting, but as a domestic violence issue. I mean, do we have a policy that says we're not gonna allow more than one patrol officer outside the city limits at a time, or how do we handle that?
We do have a policy. It's not quite to that, but I will not allow, somebody needs to be manned in the city at all times. So given that circumstances, that the dynamic is that there was a trooper responding to a domestic disturbance, given the details of what the call was, for the safety of that trooper, we responded at the request of them. They have to formally request our assistance on that. Then it's up to the sergeant at that point on who's gonna go where, what's gonna happen. At any given time, there will always be somebody inside the city. We continue to do that, and then a lot of times if it was in Settlers Bay and it just happened to be that incident, and I can't really get into too much detail regarding that incident, but when you talk about agency assist, 9 times out of 10, that's exactly what we're doing, is we're going down to assist them, and as soon as that the world's safe, then we are clearing and coming back to the city relatively quick. Given the dynamic of what the call is, it's gonna be up to the sergeant. I trust the sergeants, I trust their decision-making on how many they're gonna send. But we do have a policy where we're not going to allow, unless it's an absolute emergency for some whatever reason, for a case-by-case basis, that there will be somebody inside the city to handle calls. And if we need to resort back to have an officer come back, then we will pull that resource back to help out, to make it a priority to help out wherever calls coming in through the city at that time.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, thank you for your presentation, Chief.
We'll just leave that video.
And now we will hear from Deputy Administrator Nygaard and receive an update on the state and federal grants.
Thank you. Good evening, council. She's gonna help me out here.
Is this okay? Can everybody see this? Do you want me
Yeah.
to move this back? Or?
If you can move it back, I just couldn't see the screen.
Okay, so move it back here. And then maybe the rest of the
Yeah.
audience can see as
Yeah.
well. Citizens. Everybody see? Da-da-da-da.
So we're here tonight to update you on our state and federal grants. And, I was just thinking back in '22, we had some serious infrastructure issues we had to deal with. And one of the permits is just coming now into the city because we passed all the tests, so they can do that. But these infrastructure grants have helped to cover those growth, support growth, development, and infrastructure. And so we broke it down in a couple areas. The first one is public works. Those are your water, wastewater, airport, public safety, and then community. That's like library, museum, planning. Those are things that enhance the community that we live in. So we thought we'd just go across, and we'll just kind of pull it away so you can see the numbers. First one, Public Works in 2022. They had $2.6 million in capital project dollars that came to the city. In 2023, they had $9.7 million that came to the city for infrastructure. In 2024 was $11.2 million. And in 25, this won't be a surprise, 37,000. Because of everything that's going on in Washington DC right now. Things are on hold. No, and I can do that yet. So let's go to public safety. Also an important component of the city in 2022. And really, I want to thank finance and public works. They all have been so helpful putting all this together. 463,000 in grants. Then in 23 was 468,000. In 2024, 977,000. And in 2025, 1.1 million. So you see the pattern here. We continue to seek those infrastructure dollars. And community, 2022, 78,000.
Could you tell me what community means? Is obviously there's a.
So that's your library, your museum, planning, primarily those three. Yep. 78,000, and then 2023 was 247,000. 2024 was 212,000, and 2025 was 312,000. So we'll just do the totals on the side. So for public works since 2022 is 23.5 million. In public safety, 2.9 million. Community is, oops, we've got that one wrong, so that's 849. Go ahead. So the totals on the bottom for, if you just look at it on an annual basis. So in 2022, collectively, there was 3.1 million. 2023, 10.4 million. And 2024, 12.4 million. And in 2025, 1.5. So the important thing is over the last couple years, if we go to the final total at the very end, is $27.3 million of grants. Yep, that one right there. Which is a pretty heavy lift for a little city like ours. But we do have some pending for 2026, 2025, 2026. One is the airport, 13 million, and water at 5.9 million. And so we added those collectively to the totals. Yep. 43.2 million. And I think this last one where it says match, it's really important to note that the initial 27.3 million required a $900,000 match, which usually it's a one-to-one match. So that was pretty significantly low. There were times that we talked to our delegation, like Murkowski, who was able to waive that match. The same with the state. They did not require a match for the $5 million for the airport. And so if we are successful with the airport at 13 million to combine two phases, which would be phase 2 and 3, that would require a match. But we thought it was very important to let you know where we are right now. Things are still a little moving around, especially in this pending section. But anytime you want to come and get detail, you know you can come up and talk with this at any time. I just want to point out that these capital project grants, I think they represent a valuable resource for our city's continued growth and development. And it also reflects a significant amount of time and effort each department has invested in securing and managing these funds. This is way beyond their day-to-day work. We don't have a grant writer. We don't have people that direct us to this agency has this kind of application and this is what the reporting's going to be. So it's really requires us all to really work closely together, and it's not a one-person sport, but I think the staff and the collaboration we've had with you guys to give us a go-ahead to seek those funds, we really appreciate it.
Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Crystal. So in the public safety grant world there, how much of that is, you know, roughly speaking, not particularly speaking, but how much of that is SROs and our assistance to the DEA task force? Is that 80-90% of that total, or what sort of other grants are we?
Well, like
Getting for public
911,
safety.
E911, and then various agreements that we have with the borough, or even sometimes in the last, what I've seen, and Chief, please correct me, but there were some grants that had come out.
He's gone.
Okay. There were some grants that have come out this last year for enhanced equipment, enhanced gear in their cars. So that's what that is, a result of, those grants.
Those are state or federal
State.
grants? State.
And then like JAG, he mentioned a couple JAG grants, those are in there as well. And I think it's really important to see the escalation there, but then if you notice, I've left two lines at the bottom, and that is, what's the operational cost that's gonna be associated with this? That's something we have to talk about. What are the KPIs? What are the performance measures we need to figure out? And then how efficient are we internally in managing these? And so those are just questions that I think now's appropriate time to start having when you get this much capital coming to the city. And it really is, it's local, state, and federal. So it's a very nice combination.
Thank you.
Okay. And Public Works Director, Eric.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to get your next presentation started and do a little introduction.
Cindy, can I get you to move that whiteboard?
So tonight I want to introduce Mr. Chris Whittington Evans with Wolf Architecture. He'll be presenting on the City Hall and MACCOM assessment needs and study that he performed. I wanted to let you know that you received the report in your packet, and you have an updated set of his presentation slides, so you can see more detailed versions of the photos from his findings. You may recall that this assessment and needs study was put together out of the budget process last year, where we were discussing the idea of needing a new city hall. And so the funding was modified to provide this study. So we've been working with Wolf Architecture all winter to effectively map City Hall and MACCOM and bring that data before you today so you can hear its functionality as a city hall and as a emergency dispatch center. Couple things I want to highlight that Mr. Evans will get into. We used 3D scanning technology of both buildings so that they could build an accurate scale digital model that lends itself for the forecasting that he's provided, as well as, interestingly, providing a snapshot of its condition at the time. So you've probably seen the same technology on home listings nowadays, with higher-end homes having 3D scans where you can move around inside of it. It's very effective for getting the dimensions that we need, and it also serves as an interesting backup for insurance purposes. So you have a snapshot of the condition of the building at the time. And we are pretty interested in having that model because you can actually see important placards like in mechanical rooms, and it just has a really interesting detail that we are already using for our facilities management. So with this time, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Chris Whittington Evans, and then I'll sit behind him in case there's some questions that he needs assistance with.
Eric, is there a way we can make this full screen?
You can if you want to scroll.
Okay.
Yeah, just have to scroll through it.
We can get it full
There you go.
size. I see. Okay, well, all right. Thank you, Eric. Madam Mayor, members of the council, my name is Chris Whittington Evans. I'm a principal at Wolf Architecture. Worked in the valley here, and done a lot of architectural work and assessments of this sort for the last 22 years that I've been a project architect with Wolf. We were hired and fortunate enough to work on Dorothy Swanda Jones building a number of years ago when they were trying to determine the usefulness of that building, which was formerly a school, interestingly enough, the first school in the valley, but also a very aged building with a lot of complications to it as well. We worked on that building. We are currently also working with the city of Kodiak on a similar assessment study for them. We began, as Eric mentioned, in January, actually, and to look at these two facilities. And for the purposes of the audience and so forth. And is it possible to, no, that's probably not a pointer per se, but I can point with this. Very good. So I just, actually, no, this works just fine, I think. This is parametric, so it'll work just fine. I wanted, I guess, to start off thanking Mayor Ledford as well as the staff of the Public Works Department. Eric and Rick have been instrumental in helping me get access to the facilities, to all the nooks and crannies, of which there are many. And it's fascinating. It's always a bit of an archaeological investigation when you get into buildings of this age. As also part of this process, we were fortunate enough to have access to city staff and department heads, and were conducted 20 interviews of the folks identified here. I won't go through all of them, but thank you again for that access and for your willingness to participate. We also worked with the Wasilla Museum in identifying some of the historical aspects of this particular building. I'm wondering if I turn off a couple of things here, if I can get this to full screen. F11. Function F11? There we go. Excellent. A future IT hire here. Okay. So, as we mentioned, and Eric's asked me to do this in 15 minutes, and I'm going to apologize in advance because I'm probably going to go beyond 15. So, and I know you guys have a very busy agenda. But in any event, we did look only, our methodology in our investigation was limited to City Hall and MATCOM and the departments therein. We looked, as Eric said, with a LiDAR scanner, which we captured, and all of the different areas in both facilities. MATCOM was limited to the second floor and the entryways on either end of the building, not the MSB portion of that facility. And we then also conducted interviews, as I mentioned, but the scope was really to identify the existing departmental uses, functionality within those, relationship between those different departments, and then also to what extent each department was serving the public needs and accessibility, security, and provisions both on the site and within each of those spaces to do the work that the public and the citizens and businesses of the city require. Also looking into the future, given that the Mat-Su Borough and Wasilla are very fast-growing communities. Current areas may be sufficient in some regards, but 50 years down the road, they may or may not be sufficient. And so the growth projections that we looked at are largely based on population and area annexations and so forth in order to make that projection. Obviously, there's going to be departmental consolidations through digital technology and other kind of evolutions that we are going through in municipalities. But by and large, as a community grows, so will the needs of those that it serves. And then we looked at a very high level at how these needs might be met into the future. Here, at an unknown site, third-party site, or at an available commercial property. So we looked at some options, but again, very high level. Methodology, departmental interviews, scans of the facilities, historical data collection, code reviews, using the International Building Code, relevant codes of the day, as well as the Americans with Disabilities Act code requirements. Growth trends, and the area model is basically looking at sizes of the facilities currently and the departments currently, and then projecting those forward. And then very rough order magnitude cost projections. So briefly, the city departments held within these two facilities includes over 60 staff. Within those departments, we're serving a population of a little over 9,000 as of 2020, probably more like 10.1 or 10.2 currently, maybe a little higher. The population has grown 38%, 39% since 2010. The Mat-Su Borough population, per the Alaska Department of Workforce Development, is anticipating a growth of 1.2% per year up to 2050. So again, we are within the fastest growing community in the state. So the staff number based on those projections would be reasonable to look at a staff number of pushing 100 by that point by 2050. So again, looking forward to the useful likelihood of a new facility or of a renovated facility. Okay, this is just showing the city, the relative departments, City Hall, MATCOM that we looked at, other landmarks that are city landmarks in terms of the Wasilla Library and PD, and a property that is under consideration at 950 East Bogart. Site overview of the City Hall, which we're sitting in and all probably somewhat familiar with. This facility is in two very distinct separate wings. We're in the first level of the north wing that provides ADA access off of Herning, thank you. And again, serves with the departments of this area and serves the council meeting chambers. The south wing was an addition to the north, and I'll speak to that in a minute, and serves as the main public entry to this facility, along with the parking area associated with it. We have about 48 parking spaces that are available for use, except for when we have large snow events, which of course this winter we were, depending on your outlook, fortunate or not fortunate enough to have. And then additional overflow parking is provided on street as well as across the street in parking area. That, based on current use, is just making your current needs for parking per your own city code as well as acceptable parking standards. So as I kind of mentioned, the school connection, this was an Alaska Territorial School, originally built in 1934 for the purposes of providing schooling and intermediate and high school classrooms in this facility, in this building here. There was a smaller classroom or school for elementary, or rather primary ages, located adjacent to this. They got electric lights in 1937. It expanded in 41 to 6 classrooms with a gym and showers. And that's kind of the condition that you see it in this historic image that was provided by the Alaska Historical Archives. South wing was added in the 50s. That's the concrete masonry unit building that it houses public works and finance and planning and IT. And in the early 80s, with the construction and completion of what is now Wasilla Middle School and then Iditarod School, this was turned over to the city, and remodeling of the facility began to create council chambers that we sit in 1982. City Hall has used and occupied this facility for some 44 years, thereabouts. So as Eric was mentioning, these are the results of the LiDAR work that we did and the subsequent BIM, building information modeling, that was done. This provides us with a 99.9% accuracy to what is within scale, what is currently existing in the facilities. And we've then broken this down. I don't want to get into too much detail or I'll take up way too much time. But essentially, this south wing is, as I said, holding finance, IT, planning, and public works, along with common uses in the form of the main kitchen break room, bathrooms, and archive records, as well as surplus storage. It also has the main entrance for the public in this wing, around 11,000 square feet. The north wing, as I'm referring to it, includes council chambers here, which has a maximum occupancy per that sign behind me of 88. It also holds the clerk's office and suites, as well as storage, boiler room, toileting facilities. Upstairs is the Madam Mayor's suite and the HR, human resources area, along with a wellness room, supplies, and some other office spaces. Accessory areas, as I refer to them, include the mechanical plant for the south wing, the boiler room, and storage on that south wing area underneath the IT area, and a crawl space, which is directly underneath of us, which was the floor of the gymnasium at some point when they did the renovations and understood that we would need to be on grade here, and that getting up and down vertical circulation within this facility is challenging, and frankly non-compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act, because if you're either a person with a disability or you're an injured staff personnel, you would find it difficult to traverse stairs and so forth. There's no vertical circulation within the building, which is a requirement of a municipal facility. So this building also has this crawl space, which is not to be used for storage and should either be draft stopped or have fire suppression on it. Similarly, there's an attic in this building that, per the historic documents, was utilized and used as a cafeteria and a testing room during the territorial school days. It is now, as you'll see in some of the images here ahead, just a very dusty kind of attic with a lot of ventilation running through it and so forth. Again, apologies for this being kind of a big bite to chew on here, but the current needs being fulfilled, requirements of a municipal office, municipal place of government that are being fulfilled here. Obviously, you have functional departments, you have a very dedicated staff. I wish I could speak as well as your police chief does, and that drone was very cool. The board show that was done by Crystal was also equally impressive in a totally different way. So you have very dedicated staff, and that was very apparent through our interviews. Everyone I spoke with was just conducted themselves very professionally and has the highest regard for this process and this effort to try and, I think, professionalize the seat of government. So they're all invested, and that's a great partner to have by your side as the council deliberates what's ahead here. But in any regard, we have a building that was not ever constructed to serve the purpose that it is now functioning as. It was built as a school. It was renovated and added onto as a school, consequently in a school of the day in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. So it was never designed to do the job that you all are doing within it and doing a commendable job at it, but that's just the reality. As I mentioned, there are fire separation issues because you have an assembly space here within this portion of the building, and you have a business space that is upstairs and to the south of us. That requires a separation. It requires a firewall between those two because of the overall square footage of this building, combined square footage. So that's something that would need to be added under any scenario that you might be renovating this facility in the future. You also have some other code issues with boiler room rating with equipment that exceeds the BTU limits per, again, the IPC. Now, if you don't do anything other than paint and make some repairs, your obligation to upgrade those things is less stringent. But as soon as you start doing any upgrades, it triggers that requirement. You're limited with just in terms of those upgrades by how much volume you have. You have a very small floor-to-floor height in this building, so you can't effectively run ventilation through the ceiling or run retrofit fire suppression through the ceiling. So those are difficulties. Layouts and efficiencies, et cetera, it's a very difficult thing to get an integrated, controllable HVAC system in this building. Egress routes are currently not compliant. The one out of this assembly chambers, for instance, right now is not a compliant egress route. So you have these challenges, and they're identified. You've made great accommodations. Your lighting is excellent. You've identified areas where there's tripping hazards, et cetera. So you're showing due diligence in that regard. But again, to make any improvements will immediately start to trigger these required upgrades. Hazardous materials identification. Following the November 2018 earthquake, there was a limited hazardous materials investigation done. 63 samples were taken in limited areas on the south portion of the facility. Those tags are still up. You'll still see them. Here's one right now that you can see. Those revealed that you do have, which is typical of the age of these facilities, you do have drywall mud and texturing that are ACM. And again, anytime you do anything to disturb those, it requires abatement. Anytime you do abatement, it's a very big disruption. So even a small project, putting an access door in a wall, for example, resurfacing something, all those require that additional layer, particularly in a public facility. Again, these are just some images of things that we sort of surveyed and made note of. Storage is a problem in this facility and just in general, again, because you have a facility that was not intended for the use that it's currently serving. So you have files in hallways, you have people, trying to store, seasonal items underneath their desks. You have chainsaws in hallways. This is not open to the public, so that's good, but this is a surplus of, and I hope I'm not embarrassing anyone, but these are just findings and things that I needed to mention and bring to you. Stairway in this facility is not compliant. Handrails do not meet code. Rise and run does not meet code. Again, those upgrades would need to be tended to, and an elevator would need to be put in order for this facility to be compliant and functional. Security and door hardware. This is a closer on the door that goes downstairs to the boiler room on the south wing. It is currently not functioning. Probably hasn't been functioning for a while. Security is done, again, by means of lock sets that are by and large residential or light commercial lock sets, and they each have codes. Maybe they're the same, maybe they're different. But again, it's not an integrated or complete system, which would be typical and warranted of a facility like this. These are some pictures that I mentioned. This is the attic upstairs. There has been some ACM pipe study, ACM, asbestos-containing material testing done, and there have been some abatement work. Eric, correct me if I'm wrong on that in the attic. Not in the attic. Okay. This crawl space area is located off the storage supply closet, which we were not sure what was down there, and I had to ask Rick Antonio to open it up and look at it for me because it was not behind an accessible panel. And so he obliged me and went in and took some photographs. But this may explain why that area is so hard to heat, because there's no insulation in it. And it's also open in places to the out of doors. So thus some of the problems with broken pipes and so forth. So this is the crawl space underneath us right now. And it, again, it does require draft stopping because it exceeds the size of the space that would otherwise not need that. All right, I'm going to move on to MATCOM. So MATCOM exists and functions at 1800 East Parks Highway. As the police chief commended them, and I had again the honor of going in and meeting some of these folks, and they were I think they were a little alarmed when I asked them to turn the lights on so I could operate my scanner, my LiDAR, because they operate in the dark, because that's how they can best see their screens. But lighting controls, they operate in the dark except when the sun's out, and which, in Alaska, you've got the sun out most of the time from this time of the year for another 6 months, thank goodness. But in any regard, it's a building that was never designed to serve the function that it's now serving. It does not have a secure lot for parking in or for officers and others coming and going. It does not have an entry that can, you need cameras, and you need to make accommodation in order to meet people at the entrance, et cetera. So it was a bank building. It was not ever designed to serve its purpose. It has a ventilation system that is not sufficient or adequate to meet the potential for a volcanic eruption, for example, to keep the comm room, which serves as the main point of distribution and communications of digital means for the city, safe. So that's an immediate issue, concern. If you haven't been in this building, I don't know, it's worth going in and just kind of taking a look. But it's an interesting octagon tilt-up concrete building. Again, it's functioning as a dispatch. It has 8 dispatch stations in it with a raised floor. The upgrades have been made to it to make it function, to allow it to function with the dedicated break room and wellness decompression spaces, which through talking to the MATCOM manager are essential and necessary. It shares infrastructure with the Matsui OC, and so it allows for that communication tower to serve multiple functions, and that's efficient and by what is, by, per the interviews, is a warranted and positive thing. So requirements that are deficient, intentional design for use was not intended to be doing what it's doing. The area layouts, one of the items of unknown design would be the seismic design criteria. It's an essential facility. When everything else falls down in an earthquake or from some other natural disaster, you want that building to be standing because you need it to function, just like the police department and just like any other essential facility that you have, fire stations, et cetera. So that building needs to be designed to the same standards. It's very doubtful that it was because it's a bank, it was a bank. I mentioned some of the other items, room for growth, which is not currently accommodated, and other storage and other issues. The storage personnel lockers are in the hallway with barely enough space to get by. If somebody's at their locker, two people are at their locker, there isn't sufficient room or compliant room to get past. I'm not going to go through all this because I know I'm way over time already, but you have this in your packet as far as common departmental requirements. So as I mentioned, we looked at 3 potential scenarios, evaluated those for what would be most beneficial just from a use standpoint, from a needs standpoint moving forward. The scenario that is currently existing, again, it's a functional scenario to a certain degree, but you have some obligations in front of you to bring it up to a standard, a code standard. And to add people or to add storage or to add other needs, let alone serving your public and your businesses, those need to be made. So again, we've just developed a very rudimentary plus minus kind of neutral evaluation category here for site, for common uses, for the city departmental offices, for the specialty needs of MATCOM, information technology, and other departments, and then possibilities of supporting other agencies or organizational tenants. So these 3 scenarios, not including the no action alternative, would be to allow City Hall and MATCOM to remain in their current locations with new and renovated facilities. Scenario 2 would be to build a separate new City Hall and combine MATCOM within that building on a city-owned site within the city. A third scenario would be to do that, but in an existing commercial building, if one were appreciable that existed. And I believe that I did have another slide, another sort of solution, which I don't know if that was. It was scenario specifics, and that just gets into some of the costing with respect to the 3 different scenarios. The rebuild renovate scenario of 290 East Turning, which would, in our view and recommendation, be tearing this building down because of the cost of disruption and relocation, which we estimate to be around $2 million, including a 12-month lease, a minimal bare bones tenant improvement cost to a facility if you were able to find one to accommodate the 25,000 square feet that you need. And then the disruption to personnel, to functioning, and to the public on top of that. So that's about $2 million that you would be putting into that process. There would be the rebuild of this facility here, which I'm guessing would cause some potential, I mean, to the extent that this is a historic building within the city of Wasilla, may it have a better purpose or a higher purpose than its current purpose? Maybe that's something to consider rather than tearing that down, but I haven't really factored that in here. New construction, again, we would recommend looking at a new construction of approximately 32,500 square feet, that would accommodate growth going forward for the next 40 years, along with bringing MATCOM and possibly another tenant into that facility for that shared and integrated and those efficiency gains. That's going to come at a cost of $500 to $600 a square foot based on current building costs. And then the third scenario, again, very high level, assuming a core shell rebuild of a current existing facility, and looking at the potential for moving into that facility with a tenant improvement and then potentially adding additional tenants to that. Okay, I've way exceeded my time, but I thank you for your patience and your attention. And I'm ready for any questions.
Ms. Rubio.
Madam Mayor. Just looking at these scenarios. Scenario one, just reading the fine print there, why would the building have to be demolished?
Well, in order for you to be able to conduct the necessary upgrades of this facility, you would have to relocate. At the very least, you would have to put up a demarcation line between the north wing and the south wing and move all these folks out of this building in order to renovate it. This structure as it currently exists would be very difficult to renovate to perform as a city hall, because, as I mentioned, the floor-to-floor heights don't allow for the ventilation required to get between the floor and ceiling. And you're sort of at a minimum height right now on both levels. And so the cost of renovating that, all of the windows and doors in this facility, mostly the windows they're a light commercial vinyl window, which are sliding windows. Some of them operate, some of them don't. You would need to remake all of those openings with a commercial grade opening. The walls currently are of unknown insulation quality, so you're losing a lot of heat, you're losing a lot of efficiency in this building. Our recommendation, and because of the cost of the disruption, in addition to the cost of renovating, the benefits of renovating this facility are not going to be seen by, even if you were to renovate this facility, it would be still at a subpar level to what is an acceptable facility standard for a municipal building of this type. So our recommendation would be to repurpose this building for a different use than the current use.
Madam Mayor, if I can follow up.
Yes.
So, no matter what, if we go with scenario 2 or 3, if scenario 1 leaves us with 2 buildings and we're gonna have to renovate them, we're gonna have to sell them off, there's still cost in that. It's not like we demolish this building for free and have property, correct? So what is the cost on that? In the sense, if we went with scenario 2 or 3, whichever one,
Right.
just looking forward, we still have to occupy 2 different buildings, and there is a cost to that.
Yes, Council Rubio. There would be, obviously, if those buildings stay on your rolls, if you were to sell the buildings, there's a gain in that potentially, or if you were to repurpose them into something that may be a city need, that extends beyond my evaluation of the structures. But hypothetically, certainly there would be some additional cost depending on if the building were sold or if the building were to be repurposed, and for what. So, yeah.
If no one else has any questions, Madam Mayor, can I continue? Oh, go ahead.
Madam Mayor,
Kathy?
if I may. A quick question regarding MATCOM. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the assessment you did was for just the upper floor that MATCOM now is in, but not for the lower floor, so there's been no assessment of if MATCOM took over the entire building on what the cost would be to redo the building.
Correct. correct, Councilwoman Cottle. We did not assess the lower floor, do any as-builting of the lower floor. So I assume the lower floor has partitions, it has probably a very similar structural system that supports the second floor, obviously. It also has a bit less glazing in the lower floor, but still has kind of perimeter glazing all the way around it. So there's still some of the security concerns and structural concerns. In order for that building to continue for us to recommend its continued occupancy in its current form, we would start with a structural upgrade to make sure that it was, or a structural assessment to make sure that it was going to be seismically whole in a large event. So that would be the first order of business, which would then look at the potential for what might those upgrades cost to do for the entire building. Because obviously, if you're going to upgrade the structure anywhere, you've got to do it for the whole building. So that would be an entire building cost. Similarly with the heating, ventilating, and air conditioning systems. So the dust control and mitigation systems would need to be upgraded for the entire building. But yeah, that building could be renovated or occupied in its entirety. But the recommendation that we would see in that would be, again, moving everyone out of the building in order to perform the structural upgrades, if those were warranted, which we would imagine they would be required. So there's a disruption involved, and where would you move your dispatch and your communication to in that event, and then move them back in. So you're moving people twice.
And I understand that without having that total picture of information for that entire building,
Right.
that just leaves a lot of
Yeah.
unanswered questions.
Okay.
But thank you.
Yeah.
Ms.
Madam
Rubio?
Maybe you can help me. I don't know this enough. If we were to go with scenario 2 or 3, whichever one we decide, or 1, when you go to sell something, you have to get it up to code, correct?
Member Rubio, that's a condition of sale that would be, there's a lot of variables in that, and depending upon what the building would be used for, if it was to be used as a public building, it would be basically held in a disclosure. So you as the seller, and again, I'm not a realtor or an attorney.
Me neither.
But in my limited knowledge of real estate,
Right.
I would anticipate that being as a disclosure. So this report, obviously, it's a public report, it's a public meeting, is now entered into the public record. So there would be a disclosure that would be inclusive of these items, that a buyer would be obligated or would elect or select to upgrade those things, or to make plans to upgrade those things as their needs saw fit.
Right. So with this survey that you did do you have a market value of which this building and MatCom, what it would be for market value?
I do not. I'm not a realtor, and so I'm not able to put market values on those.
Okay.
But I think that would be something that you would be able to get some values for these. It's tough to find a match or a similar, what do they call them, comps. Difficult to find a comp for a building like this, but I'm
That's out
sure.
of my realm.
Yeah,
That's why I
right,
asked,
yeah,
because I figure if we
yeah.
have this information,
Yeah,
I would think that we would, if we knew market value of the buildings, that helps us to decide scenario 1, 2, or 3.
understood,
Thank you.
understood.
Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Whittington Evans, for your time today. You mentioned the word, or several times this evening, you mentioned the word subpar. And I'm going to take exception to that, your choice of word there. So I would agree with you that this building is subpar compared to new construction. But Anchorage City Hall is also subpar. Palmer's City Hall is subpar. The Alaska State Capitol and the associated buildings are also subpar. That does not mean that they are not functional. So I would just suggest in the future, if you use the word subpar, you put that in some sort of relative term. So subpar compared to something that would be built today, I agree with that 100%. However, the building is still functional, not optimally functional, as are most government buildings, even by the time they get built. And hand over the keys are usually subpar at that point. So just a matter of semantics, I think.
Yes. Councilmember Graham, thank you. And I note that that may have been a poor choice of words. I did mention often that, and it certainly is a functioning enterprise that you have here, and all the departments are functioning, and they're not missing doing the business of the people here. So it certainly is performing up to that standard, yes. And the buildings that you mentioned otherwise, and again, you guys have invested considerable resources into making this facility work. I'm just pointing out the existing deficiencies that are difficult to overcome, like opening up the entry or exit behind you to be of a sufficient width in order for it to be code compliant. That's going to be, a major structural change that you would have to do. And the Capitol in Juneau, the City Hall in Anchorage, I can't speak to the Palmer City Hall. All have had to have those upgrades because they're historic buildings and they're gonna stay in use for where they're at. But agreed, and thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, we are gonna take a 5-minute break, and then when we would come back, we have Assembly Person Max Sumner is here to give us a report, I'm sure. Yeah, exactly. You better get at it.
this. There, okay, thank you. That's
No.
all I was gonna make.
Okay, we're back on the record.
Motion.
Is there a motion to adopt ordinance serial number 2510?
Madam Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance serial number 2510.
Is there a second?
Madam Mayor, second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Velock and seconded by Councilmember Cottle to adopt ordinance serial number 2510. Is there discussion? Hearing none. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is adopted. Madam Clerk, please read ordinance serial number 2511 and its accompanying AEM number 25-20 by title.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Amending the fiscal year 2025 budget by appropriating $75,000 from the general fund balance to the sewer repair and maintenance fund for the purpose of unanticipated equipment repairs. With that is AM number 2520, contract award to RWC Group in the amount of $48,475.71 for a 2027 International Pumper Truck engine repairs.
The public hearing on ordinance serial number 2511 is now open. Anyone wishing to testify, please come forward and begin by stating your first and last name. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Seeing no one, I will close public comment. Public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance serial number 2511 and AM number 2520?
Madam Mayor, I move ordinance serial number 2511 and its accompanying AM 2520.
Is there a second?
Madam Mayor, Cottle seconds.
It's been moved by Councilmember Crafton and seconded by Councilmember Cottle to adopt ordinance serial number 2511 and its accompanying AM number 2520. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Crafton?
thank you, Mayor. Quick question, not sure if this would go to Cassie or Eric. The original 75,000, was that just because we didn't know what the cost was and then we got a contract award for it, so we don't need the full 75,000? And if so, what's gonna happen to the remaining amount?
Through the mayor, Eric Shaw, Public Works Director. So the reason that there's the 75,000 compared to the 43 is the 43 is an estimate from the shop. And as we found out when we had to repair the transmission on one of the streets graders, they don't know what they don't know. And so we needed it to see the scope, you know, we needed to be able to bring that document in front of purchasing and in front of you. But we don't know what the end cost will actually be to get it back up and running. So working with the finance director after looking at some of our other heavy equipment expenses, this is to provide the headroom so that it can be completed without having purchasing limit issues based on the legislation. I'd have to defer to the finance director on what happens to the monies, but my understanding is that because it is associated with the truck, whatever is unspent would be, I believe, be rolled back because it's only associated with the truck. So once it's working, if there's a balance left over, then that's one of the roles that the finance director plays in squaring accounts. I'll yield to her.
Good evening, Cassie Owen, Director of Finance. The balance, if there should be anything left over due to this going into the enterprise fund, the sewer enterprise fund, and is going to the repair maintenance budget, it would become the fund balance of the enterprise fund of sewer. So it would roll into their unassigned fund balance that they would have down there. I will also say that we are currently experiencing issues with the 2001 pumper truck too, so there are other costs that are associated. I do know that I've seen quite a few expenses coming through as our last remaining pumper truck that is currently running to cover this 2017 while we're waiting for the new one to come in. So I do know that.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Rubio?
Madam Mayor, I think the question might go to Eric, I'm not sure. What is the warranty on this, parts and labor? Because to me, this isn't a common thing, correct? 2017 losing its engine off a gasket.
Lord, I hope not. This is a factory, approved dealership. I would have to double check how many years the warranty is, but this is, actually the supplier that we got the truck from in 2017, and so they're a certified repair station. They'll be getting the, I don't know if it's a crate motor, I don't know exactly how much work they'll do in-house, but it'll come with that certification. So I can circle back with the actual year-long, warranty.
Yeah, because it concerns me just knowing the engine hours are only at 5,000.
Yes, yeah, that's not enough time.
I don't want to pour money into a vehicle that doesn't have a warranty to sustain. I mean, 2017 blows my mind. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know if the maintenance was part of why the engine failure was in the blown gasket. I have no idea, but either do you probably, you know what I mean, at this
Yeah.
point. So I just want to make sure our money goes the distance that it needs to. So I would like to see what the warranty is. And if it is just on parts and labor, how that breakdown looks.
I'll get that information to you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, is there further discussion? Hearing none, is there objection to the motion?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Yes, I would like to postpone it just so that we can get that information. I think it would help us ultimately, and if our other pumper truck is surviving it and handling it, I think that we have just a little bit of time, I'm sure.
Graham seconds the motion to postpone.
Eric, did you say the other pumper truck was having issues?
Yeah, the 2001 is what we've been relying on while this was down. So it took a long time for us to figure out what was wrong with the engine. We had it at a local repair shop that's just been overwhelmed, and we actually had to have it towed into Anchorage to have them ascertain what was wrong. So we've been running on one, which is a unsecure feeling. And so,
Madam Mayor, if I can. Eric, help me, we can do a subcontract if we need to, if something did happen to our other pump truck.
We
For
do.
the meantime, until we get, and I don't know how long that will take, 2 weeks, and we can postpone it to get the information that we need?
yeah,
So
we'll be ready to
There
answer
is other
that.
options if the truck, our other option of the truck going down, we can sub out, right? Okay.
We just can't be without a pumper truck.
We shouldn't be.
Okay, the motion, is there any objection to postponement? Hearing none, then it is postponed until the next meeting
4/28.
on 4/28. Okay. We are now at persons to be heard, a time for members of the public to share their views with the council. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the council or administration. And the first one is Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Tim Johnson, Wasilla City resident. As we, or you, I'm still part of the city, so I will say we, start our budget cycle to approve the next budget, I'd like to have you consider several things. First, I've always been an advocate of quality of life for this city. We need to put some real dollars and some real priority behind it. I've advocated for years several things, and I will advocate it again. Iditarod Park equipment. Oh, my granddaughter loves the equipment. She loves that playground. That is in sore need of a lot of work. The wood is chipping, there's missing pieces to it, and it's just flat ugly. We need to do something there. We don't have to spend a lot of money, but we need to put some effort, some time, and budget into it to really clean it up and make it playground equipment that our kids that is safe and that they want to really play with. Number two, Newcomb Park. I've advocated for several years, fill in the holes in the beach, make this a place that we can be proud of. This park gets a lot of usage during the summers, and we've got big holes, and it just is ugly. Fix it. This is not a high budget item, so let's fix it. The last thing, we have spent $1 million on our railway station, and I have to really congratulate the city. We have one of the best off-road parks that we have in the community. Now, that's a sarcastic statement. I've advocated again, stop the vandalism. We have people running their ATVs, their pickup trucks, and they're just gonna tear it all up and make it look nasty. In fact, it's really ugly as it is. It would not take us more than 15 to 20 minutes with a front end loader and we could stop the vandalism. So let's stop it. Number 2, we're going into the budgeting season. We're also negotiating a police contract. We need to make sure that we can attract and retain the best. Right now, we're way understaffed. We had an incident in my neighborhood just the other day. We're calling for backup. Why? Because we only had 2 officers on shift. We had to bring somebody in so that they could babysit a property while they're getting a court order for search. We're really stretched that thin, and we need to stop this. Thank you.
Okay, Reese Clayton. Reese, you have 3 minutes. Please start by saying your first and last name.
Reese Clayton, Parks and Rec Committee. First off, I just want to come out here and say this is in support for Commissioner Jones, his vision and his agenda for the park. As we continue to shape the future of recreation in Wasilla, I want to express full support and thoughtful and strategic documentation. I just want to thank Commissioner for getting all this documentation ready, and I want him to know that we're here to support him with his vision. One of his visions that he has is he sees the Parks and Recreation Department as one of the most essential parts of Wasilla city structure. I think that for a long time coming, we've been needing to see the changes of Wasilla and the park. And to do that, what we need to do is we need to actually set up a true Parks Department, not just kind of a Parks and Rec advisory board. We actually need a Parks Department so that the maintenance, the city, has full-time staffing that can actually help out with some of the new projects that are coming up, like Nunley and Iditarod Park. With that being said, we've already set out some of the groundwork to see major projects here in the city of Wasilla coming up this summer. The city of Wasilla has a great form of income through its sales tax, and I think that we really need to watch and partner with nonprofits and public-private partnerships to, again, expand in the park, be it sponsorship programs, be it anything. That's where having some type of Parks Department would allow for a full-time staff member to really look at each park and figure out what the best plan is, but also have some type of consistency with the parks. One thing that's challenging is our parks have a lot of different requirements that they need, but with having someone who really has an understanding of what this park might offer to the public, that's gonna be a really good step forward for us. So yeah, I'm just here again to support Commissioner Jones's agenda that he did push forward to the City Council. I do think that the planning for the future for budgeting is one of the most important things that I can do. I think that people are gonna be excited about the changes. They're already inspired by all the small changes like the trees being cut down at Nunley Park and so forth. So yeah, now is the time to change the city. We really need to plan a long schedule for our park maintenance. We really need to plan how long after construction should we keep, until we need to do upkeep on these parks and the kids areas and all that. We really need to figure out what exactly is the required upkeep. And at the end of the day, we just need to figure out what exactly does our Parks Department offer to the City Council so that we can really benefit together.
Okay, thank you. Jeannie.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jeannie Trushinsky. I'm here as president of the Friends of Wasilla Public Library. I was listening to the architect from Wolf, and I can't help but think that the Westella Library started on a bookshelf in this building. And I think of that every time I come to a meeting here. Those sewing ladies got together, and this is where it started. So we've started gathering our donations for summer reading, and we really appreciate that. We've got the donations for the bikes. We're gonna have 6 bikes again. Each, their students or people that finish their reading challenge are eligible to enter to win as a grand prize one of our 6 bikes. This is our 4th year of doing this in memory of Bert Cottle. Each recipient of a bike also gets a helmet. And we really appreciate Richard at the Alaska Bicycle Center for working with us on this. The generosity of the community is really phenomenal for all of our summer reading program. Last week we started our Art for Seniors in the Library. We're doing one-stroke art class, and we have 17 participants. A few crabby people who did not get into the class because we have a limited number of participants, but it's still really exciting, and I think it's going to be another really great art class. It's an 8-week course, so that hopefully by the end people will be able to do this art form. Last week on Thursday, we had Max Brailer here from Los Angeles. He's a nationally known writer he writes books really for 5th and 6th graders. The Friends have sponsored an author for the last 3 years, and we really wanted to get our bang for our money. So this year we really did. We give about $2,500 working with the Anchorage libraries. They donate equal amounts for several libraries to bring in these nationally known authors. We had 500 young people at Mockatons, and what we did was we bussed in kids from Cottonwood, and the Friends paid to bus the kids there so that we could get as many kids as possible to hear them. And it was really exciting because a bunch of these kids brought their own books that they wanted him to autograph, and they were so excited. Then we had 116 folks, kids and parents, in the afternoon at Wasilla Library. It's a really great day. This Saturday, we have a concert. We have been doing our concerts in the evening, but we found that a lot of kids are coming to the concert, so we're gonna try a Saturday. The concert is from 11 to 12 at the library, and the money goes to summer reading. And then after that, from 12 to 1, we're having an egg search, which is kind of like a little bingo thing that you go around the story walk and find the eggs and match them to your sheet. May 5th, Aowen Ivy, a nationally known author, is going to be at our book club and talk about her book, Blackwoods Blue Sky. She's an amazing writer. And I'll just give you my little sheets with some other stuff. We got a lot of things going on. Thank you. Thanks, Jeannie. Okay. Okay, we are now on to the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please read the item for approval under the consent agenda by title.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have introductions, recommended public hearing on April 28th, 2025, ordinance serial number 2512, amending the fiscal year 2025 budget by appropriating $16,500 from the general fund balance to the Human Resources Department professional services account for the completion of a classification study. Ordinance serial number 2513, amending the fiscal year 2025 budget by accepting and appropriating donated funds from the Valley Board of Realtors in the amount of $7,500 for Nunley Park improvements. And lastly, ordinance serial number 2514, repealing and reenacting Wasilla Municipal Code Title 16 Land Development Code to substantially change the uses permitted in each zoning district, the review, enforcement, and permitting procedures, the planned unit development, landscaping, parking, conditional use and variance procedures, and the design standards imposed in the city. Introductions, again, we have our budget ordinance that will be recommended public hearing of April 28th and 29th, 2025. Ordinance serial number 2525, providing for the adoption of the annual budget for the fiscal year 2026 and appropriating funds to carry out said budget. And I think everything else was pulled.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
Madam Mayor, I move the consent agenda as read.
Is there a second?
Madam Mayor, go ahead, Ruby.
It's been moved by Councilmember Crafton and seconded by Councilmember Rubio and Cottle to approve the consent agenda as read. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. We are at unfinished business, ordinance serial number. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. That's under unfinished business, ordinance serial number 2507, amending the fiscal year 2025 budget by accepting and appropriating an agreement for a sub-grant by the Matanuska-Susitna Borough from the State of Alaska Department of Commerce, Community and Economic Development, Division of Community and Regional Affairs designated to legislative grant agreement in the amount of $2 million for the for the Palmer-Wasilla Water Interconnect. That's grant number 25DC082. This was postponed from the March 24th council meeting. Motion to adopt is pending.
Okay, is there further discussion on this ordinance?
Madam Mayor?
Ms. Rubio.
So looking over this, I was the one that did ask to postpone it just for more information, and we did get that. But it looks like HDL Engineering will be providing a huge project update at the April 28th meeting. And so in the big picture of it, I would love to know more about the northern route, southern route, and just a little bit more information. And so knowing that they're coming on the 28th.
Eric, has either one of those routes been selected?
Through the mayor, so, no, they have not been selected. There has been some projects that correlate with the southern route that also help our current water system that we're moving on through the other funds that have been associated. But yes, you're correct, Councilmember Rubio, that HDL will be presenting the work that they've completed so far in the interconnect project, giving you updates on maps and the other data they've collected. So I don't think there's a fiscal reason that it can't be postponed until the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second the motion.
What was the motion?
Postponed to the next regular.
It's postponed to April the 28th meeting. And is there objection to the motion to postpone? Hearing none, it's postponed until April 28th. And now, Madam Clerk, we are on to new business. Would you please read the first title?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. That's resolution serial number 2513, authorizing the transfer of funds within an accounting fund in the amount of $34,148.21 from the Construction Services Micro Turbine Project to the Construction Services Refrigeration R22 Conversion Fund for required repair work on the ice plant compressors at the Menard Sports Center. With that is AM number 2517, approving a contract amendment to Cool Air Mechanical Incorporated in the amount of $34,148.21 for required repair work on the ice plant compressors at the Menard Center.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt?
Madam Mayor, I move resolution serial 2513 and accompanying AM 2517.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I'll second the motion.
The motion has been made and seconded to move 2513 and 2517. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor. So this is a question for finance. So essentially, we're moving money from one project to another project. It doesn't really say what this micro turbine project is or was. And for Public Works, is this $34,000 going to come back up again to do this project, or is this project completed and money left over? So between the two of you, I'd just like to know where the money is, how that affects us going forward.
Cassie Olin, Director of Finance, through the Mayor, Councilman Graham. The $67,000 was appropriated last capital projects, so in FY 2025. It was for a study to do the microturbine project to find out whether or not it was a feasibility for something that we could have done there for the electric grid at the Menard. And from my understanding is, based on other assessments that had been done for other things that are going on at the Menard, they have chosen to abandon this project. And so once they abandon it, then the funds can be released back to be either be used for another project or back to the general fund. So we would abandon these at the end of this fiscal year.
So since the council appropriated funds for a specific use and they're not being, used for that specific use, is there any need for the council to put that back into, fund balance and then reappropriate it, or is this fully above board legal here?
This is above board legal. There's currently a code, and don't quote me on it, I think it's 504. I'm not sure at the very end of it. I know it's rarely at the very end of that, and it's lapse of appropriations. And so capital projects that are either don't have an encumbrance for the last 3 years or anything that is done on the last 3 years, or if it is decided among the mayor administration that that is a project that will be abandoned, then we will reset it back to the general fund to be reappropriated through the council's appropriation, normally through budget process.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and in full disclosure, I did ask the mayor, the next 3 resolutions deal with property acquisition for the airport. Do you guys want to take those one at a time, or do you want to take them as a bundle?
As a whole.
As a whole? Okay, I'll read them into the record as a whole. Resolution serial number 2514, authorizing the mayor to enter into a purchase agreement pursuant to Wasilla Municipal Code 528030B to acquire 10 acres of land and residential structure identified as T17 North, Range 2 West, Section 13, Lot B8, at 1815 South Foothills Boulevard in an amount not to exceed $424,800 plus closing costs, for runway expansion and runway protection zone. Resolution serial number 2515, authorizing the mayor to enter into a purchase agreement pursuant to Wasilla Municipal Code 528030B to acquire 5 acres of land identified as T17 North, Range 2 West, Section 13, parcel number 3 at 4600 West Garner Circle in an amount not to exceed $112,000 plus closing costs for runway expansion and runway protection zone. And lastly, resolution serial number 2516, authorizing the mayor to enter into a purchase agreement pursuant to Wasilla Municipal Code 528030B to acquire 5 acres of land identified as T17 North, Range 2 West, Section 13, parcel number 4 at 4530 West Garner Circle in an amount not to exceed $81,300 plus closing costs for runway expansion and runway protection zone. And that's it.
Okay, is there a motion?
I make a motion. Do I have to read all those or just what Jamie said? I move it.
Is there a second?
Madam Mayor, I'll second the motion.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded to approve, 25, 14, 15, 16, and 17?
15, 16.
Or
14, 15.
14, 15.
14,
Okay,
15,
14, 15, 16. Is there a discussion?
Madam Mayor, I did pull these because I was just trying to figure out on my own. I know that we did the 300,000 tonight, but each one of these used the state grants and the city budget. So I was just wondering on these, how much is going to each one of these property of our city money And in the big picture of the project, looking back at this graph, I brought mine, I don't know if anyone else has this, trying to decipher what is the grant compared to our city funds going into this. Okay. Hopefully that helps you.
Hopefully. Cassie Lynn, Director of Finance, through the Mayor, Council Member Rubio. So 2514 and 2515, before the ordinance earlier tonight of the 300,000, there was $600,000 in airport land acquisition in the airport fund. So we took out, one of these is taking out the 424,800, which is 14, and then another one is gonna be taking out 2515 of the 112,000. That will leave a balance, after the 600 would be the 63,200 plus closing cost. And then now that we have the 300, it would be 363,200. With regards to 2516, we are gonna be using the runway extension grant from the state, the $5 million that we had. That's what that, this one is gonna be paid for out of. The current balance as of right now, will be $257,377.09 as of right now. And then we will take out the 81,300, so roughly $188,000 left within that grant. And there are other additional costs that are currently, so we have still some things running on that grant with regards to fencing, and some gate improvements and some other stuff that I'm not fully adversed in, but, and so that would be the remainder of that grant that we are currently left.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
it might just be me, you guys, I don't know, but is there any way we can get like a breakdown of that? Like, so it kind of lays it out for us? You're good with numbers, that's your job, but laying it out for me like that, trying to write it down real quick doesn't help me. I don't know if I'm the only one, I don't know.
Like that graph we had
Yeah,
before?
yeah,
I'd love an updated one.
that would be awesome. We could do that.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I don't know if it's Cassie, Eric, or through the mayor, Crystal, who can answer this question, but once these lots are purchased, how many lots are left on our list that we're, looking at purchasing to complete this runway extension?
To the Mayor, Eric Shaw, Public Works Director. After these three, we have about 6 more small lots that are in the runway protection zone. And then we have an owner that we are still discussing subdividing their lot so that their home is outside of the safety area, but they have some area next door that's a lowlands area, and we're trying to negotiate with them if they would prefer an easement or to subdivide that. So we're getting close to having all of the independent, separate lots figured out cost-wise and purchase-wise. This is one of the these are the 3 most complicated lots at this point because it's going to be the first occupied home that we are purchasing. And so there's also going to be, they'll have a term where they will remain on the property until they find a new place to live. So the rest are undeveloped properties or complications with subdividing. So we have about 7 more in the queue after these 3.
May I follow up? The lot that's got the home on it, once that's all taken care of and the current owners have vacated that, is the plan to demolish that home and level that ground for that area, or what is the plan for that?
So the plan for the home is that it can't have really any habitation, so it will probably either be, we could make it surplus where it's sold off and moved to another property as is possible here. The long-term clearing of that property is something we haven't fully planned out yet. We just know that we cannot have the runway safety area with a privately held home in it.
Thank you.
And don't forget, we've got 13 million that's pending to come for the airport.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So is the appropriation tonight kind of time critical for the closing on these properties, or?
Yes, yeah, they're waiting for this approval so they can start to make plans. So this is, the first purchases were time-driven because they had all been purchased by housing developers and they had, bank loans tied up in it. These generous folks have been in talks with us for several years, and so they're trying to plan their retirement. And we've been working with them for the last 6 months, going through the FAA purchase process. And so they're looking forward to a finite closing date and knowing what their next plan is based on these purchases.
Ms. Rubio.
Madam Mayor. Again, this is one of those things, I don't see the master plan of the breakdown, and I feel like obviously we have these grants, and it's not like we're throwing money at it. We want the airport to expand, we want all this to keep moving forward. But I do like a plan, and I just feel like even the question that was asked by, Cottle, what do we do with this house? It's like we're just purchasing these, because this is what we have to do with the grant money, and this is the steps to go forward. But I feel like, what is the overall steps that we're taking to get to that end, and what does that look like fund-wise for the city versus the grants? Because yes, we want the grants, and the big picture of it, but I struggle with it just a little bit. Just like I said, I just feel like we're saying yes because, well, if these homeowners are patiently waiting, I don't know, for us postponing something like this, it's not gonna make them, I don't think, in the sense that they've been waiting for 6 months or years, you said, any 2 weeks from now to get an update of what this project looks like. I just feel like there's a lot of holes in it, and I might be the only one that feels that way, but I'm just expressing it so everybody kind of knows where I stand.
Through the mayor, so as we had looked at originally with the spreadsheet that you mentioned, we looked at all of the properties at the end of the runway, and we had that broken down for the parcels and why they were required. So this fits with the master plan that we've been working on for the last 2 years on the ultimate extension of the runway out to 6,000 feet. So the acquisition of these parcels has been discussed at all the public meetings. We've had 5 of those, and we've had HDL present on what the current status of the master plan is to both the council and the Airport Advisory Commission. So we are following that process, and we are bringing the updates in timely manners. I'd be happy to add an IM at the next meeting on what the next properties are that are close with both their negotiations and the offers that we've made, and then update the cost for purchases and estimated costs. But the homeowners are looking forward to having the summer to find the next place that they'd like to live with the funds from the sale.
Okay, is there further discussion? Hearing none, is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion passes.
Madam Mayor, so he is gonna give us an update, like he said?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, awesome, thanks.
Yeah. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution serial number 2517, authorizing the mayor to enter into a purchase and sales agreement pursuant to Wasilla Municipal Code 528030B to begin the due diligence period to investigate the possible purchase of 11.37 acres of land and commercial structure identified as T17 North, Range 1 West, Section 3, lots D5 and D6 at 950 East Bogard Road in an amount not to exceed $150,000 for earnest money and consultant support.
Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move serial number 2517.
Is there a second?
Madam Mayor, I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Crafton. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, I have significant heartburn with this particular resolution. I don't understand why, number one, why it's in the consent agenda, which is generally reserved for non-controversial items, when this is something that we've looked at before and decided that we did not want to move forward with a $33 million request from the mayor to investigate a new city hall here. But that's beside the point. Number one thing that I have concern with here is this talks about providing money, providing earnest money, and there's no earnest money contract in here saying that the earnest money would be returned if there was no contract on the building. We don't have any idea what that earnest money is doing. There's nothing in here to indicate that. And number two, when we look at the resolution itself, when we look at lines 37 and 38, it talks about renovation of the existing facilities is unfeasible. And line 38 says the new building is the most effective long-term solution. Neither of those statements is true. The consultant that we just had here talking with us for half an hour said this is option number one. It didn't say this was not an option to renovate this building or to modify this building. And this kind of fell into, I think, option number three. And to say that this is the most cost-effective long-term solution, it is again completely false, because we don't know. We don't know what this building is going to cost. We don't know what it would cost to move things around. I just have extreme heartburn with this. And, to kind of put this in a colloquialism sort of thing where you talk about getting the cart out in front of the horse, I don't even think this horse has been born yet. So I don't think that we should be going into this if we want to put some money towards having a consultant take a look at the old Matsu Regional facility over there. That would be one thing, but to put earnest money down on a project that the city council hasn't even looked at, I don't see that as any sort of a solution at all, and I encourage you to vote against this. Thank you.
Is there further discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Crafton?
Thank you, Mayor. As much as I want to be able to say yes to this right now, because I think I'm one of the few at the table here that I do think moving towards a new facility is a consideration, I do think we're jumping the gun a little bit quickly here. My biggest concern is the lack of purchase contract right now. Somebody that's fairly familiar with purchase contracts. Mr. Graham is right. I don't know the terms of what would allow us to get our earnest money back if we choose not to purchase the building. I understand with commercial property purchases that generally you have a little bit longer of a due diligence period. There's a lot more considerations that you're making to make sure the building's going to fit your needs. But there's also, commercial purchases are also a lot harder. And so it's easier to lose your earnest money. And so I would personally like to see a little bit more details and understanding of, hey, this is specifically what we're looking for, and if it doesn't meet every single one of these check boxes, we're walking away. My other concern too is also purchasing another building. This building was retrofitted and has been, and we've made it work. We've heard from a consultant at this point that you've made it work, but it might not continue to work. You could, it's possible. It's not saying that this building won't work. But why, if the concern's been the retrofitting of this building, why are we going out and purchasing another building to retrofit it continuously? To me, the building's 20-something years old now, 23, 24 years old, so I'm not saying I want to go the new route. I'm just saying I don't know if that's the best option. I just don't have enough information to move forward at this time, but it would be something I would still be interested in. I just need more information.
Madam Mayor.
Kathy?
I think it's in my opinion, it's way too soon for this. And if you read the fiscal note on page 803, where the abbreviated title says authorizing the mayor to enter into a purchase and sales agreement. I think there's way too many questions to still be answered. I think that there's, this is an opportunity to look also maybe at additional options. I think we're just, we're just moving at this too quick. And so with that in mind, and Madam City Clerk, you may have to help me if I'm doing this correctly, but I would like to move to postpone resolution serial number 2517 indefinitely. And once we have questions and have more information, then administration can come back with a new resolution. Is that a motion?
That's a motion?
Yes.
In order. Right. We'll get the motion. Do you want to accept them? Okay. Is there a second?
Madam Mayor, I'll second the motion.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, the motion passes.
So the effect of the motion is it kills the resolution.
Yeah, it kills the resolution. Okay, we are, is that all of them?
Oh, we've got two more.
Oh, sorry. Continue.
Do you guys, so since these two, in my mind, are kind of related, do you want to take them as a team?
Yes.
As a pair? That works. AM number 2518, contract award to CXT Incorporated in the amount of $161,853 for the purchase of pre-manufactured concrete restroom facilities for the Bumpus Soccer Complex. And AM number 2519, contract award to CXT Incorporated in the amount of $271,538 for the purchase of a pre-manufactured concrete restroom facilities for the Bumpus Softball Complex.
Okay, is there a motion?
Go ahead.
No, I didn't shut mine off, sorry.
There is a motion, yes, for both sorry, I'm looking for something, AM 2518 and 2519.
Is there a second?
Graham seconds.
Motion's been made by Rubio, seconded by Graham. Is there a discussion? Ms. Rubio.
Madam Mayor, thank you. So I'm just trying to understand both of these AMs. In the budget last year, I had put in for $250,000 for the Bumpus Soccer Complex. And I know that now in this budget, coming up, we have $300 for parking and drainage across the street. And I think there was some kind of, I think we put, trying to remember all this, 650 into, Cassie can come up probably for all this, for all those numbers, into it. So what my questions are, again, trying to puzzle in, I love improving parks. You guys know me and what I stand for. This cost here is just the prefab of the concrete restrooms. And so we're missing what the cost of the installation and utility is. I'm assuming we have that because I think these are the same that we have at Wonderland. So that cost is not in here. And with this next fund request that's in our budget book, it says it's just talking about parking and drainage. And so I feel like there's not a game plan to go, hey, we're at step one, or phase one, phase two, this is what it's gonna look like, how we lay this out. I just don't feel like there's enough concrete substance here for moving forward with everything right now is there a game plan? I guess maybe that's the question to ask. I haven't seen it.
Through the mayor, Shaw Public Works Director. So you may recall that the Matsu Softball Organization came in and talked about their master plan, requested the bathrooms, and then that request was extended to the soccer fields. So these two purchases are to get pre-made bathrooms ordered and coming. The rest of those funds that you alluded to would be used to install required septic systems and get them ready. Because the way these systems work is you install the septic systems and you have the pipes stub up, and then They're literally lifted off a truck and set where they go. So they're very efficient in standing them up, and they've proven to be very useful throughout the state in borough and state campgrounds and that sort of thing. So in your question about what the plan is with this year's request from the Mat-Su softball organization, it refers back to their master plan and their request when the board chair has come and talked to the council about desiring to improve paving. So at the request of that user group and then the continued support by the council, that was included through me and the CIP process for your consideration this summer.
Yes, I know Dan Fleckenstein, and I know that he came to talk. The plan for the drainage, is that, you're saying in the new, budget?
Yes.
What did it say in the previous budget for what we have for total?
You're asking what the total CIP for the bathrooms was? I'd have to defer to Cassie on that one.
Okay, that's what I figured, numbers.
All right, Cassie Olin, Director of Finance through the mayor. Last year, there was $400,000 for the softball and ball fields out there. It had to deal with the bathrooms, concrete walkway, something with ADA. Remember that part of it? And there was another part, but I failed to.
We did some paving.
Paving, that was it. And so, actually, in the budget book, coming up here, there's currently, we've had roughly, there's still $399,000 sitting in that. We've used it a little bit, and that's been for RFPs to go out through the newspaper on that. And then we put in $250,000 for the soccer fields, Bumba soccer fields, and that one is a separate capital project, just to keep the accounting a little bit easier for my staff and myself. And then once this purchase is done, there would be a remaining $98,000 roughly for installation and everything that's needed for that part. And then in the current upcoming proposed budget, the $300,000 is just for the softball fields parking lot, getting it paved and graded and everything that it is needed for it. That's what.
Madam Mayor.
Ms. Rubio.
So that's what I was wondering, because it just says grade controls and drainage. It doesn't say, unless I'm seeing it, it says poorly graded gravel. It doesn't say paved, and that's what the cost of everything that I know of, I think we're gonna be over. That's what I was trying to figure out. Especially, not so much on the soccer side of things, I just had to include that in that AM. Because I had put $250,000 in there, so there should be with the utility, and again, I don't know what that cost of installation and utility on the soccer side would be. Maybe Eric would know that total. So that's an easy subtraction of 250 from whatever that is, right? We know that, but on this side of the Bumpus, the bathroom units are 271,000. And you're saying we had 400,000 to start on that side? So and then the remaining is to do.
The installation and the electricity or whatever it needs
So
on
then
that
that's
side.
at zero.
That will be at zero whenever this is done. Then we are requesting an additional $300,000 for the drainage. And then it also says in here that it's gonna have paved drive lanes to allow proper emergency vehicle access. So we're not paving the whole entire lot, we are just paving drive lanes for emergency access vehicles for EMS to get in there, as I understand it.
Okay.
And there are multiple phases that are being put into the CIP. This is just the one that we chose to do next on the list of things.
And that's where I'm kind of struggling with a lot of these projects. I feel like we don't have that ultimate layout of what, like, again, we're on phase one. I don't know what this would be, phase one, because we're at the bathrooms and paving the approaches. You know, we paved to the water tower of the soccer fields last year, and that's a disaster if you've been over there. We had to put extra D1 on the side of it because we didn't pave the rest of the parking lot. So I'm wondering now, are we just laying blacktop down for the approaches, and by the time we actually get to the next phase, we're gonna have to rip those approaches up and repave it all. And to me, it's like we're not analyzing the full project and where we're at. But that's just not directed to you, Cassie. You don't have to answer any of that. That was just there so that it's out there.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Graham?
so as long as you're sitting there, Cassie, let me make sure I understand what you're saying and what Councilperson Rubio is saying, is that approving these AMs tonight, 2518 and 2519, is not an appropriation from fund balance. It comes from funds already existing in a CIP account and being used.
Correct.
So I understand that, but I also fully agree with Councilperson Rubio that there's, and once again, has nothing to do with you, there is a pretty significant lack of clarity and communication between departments when these sorts of things come forward, and then we have to spend 15 minutes just to try and find out what we could easily see in a staff report. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion passes. We are now at communications. Madam Clerk, please read the items by title.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have Parks and Rec Commission meeting minutes, March 12th, 2025, and Planning Commission meeting minutes, March 11th, 2025.
We are now at audience comments, which is a time for members of the public to share their views with the council. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the council or administration. Seeing nobody, we will close audience comments and bring it back to the dais. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First off, seat C, our vacant council seat. Of course, we have a vacancy. Application period closes this Friday, the 18th at 5 o'clock. And so far to date, we've received one application. So interview questions for the vacancy, get those to me. I had sent an email out. I've heard only from one council member. So I'd love to have those. So thank you. State of the City luncheon tomorrow at the Greater Wasilla Chamber of Commerce, Evangelos, from 11:30 to 1:30. Mayor Ledford and her team will be speaking, as well as Deputy Mayor Rubio, I think is slated to give just some brief remarks. Budget presentation from our finance director will happen on April 28th. And then tomorrow and the following day, we have committee of the whole meetings here, special budget meetings where you'll hear from departments. So bring your budget books. I brought mine, so bring that tomorrow. What's going on? Let's see. If you read your clerk report, there's information on Direct Take Back Day, a couple of high school graduations that are coming up, save the date. And that's it, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Madam Attorney.
No comment, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Rubio.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Great meeting. Again, thank you for answering all my hard questions. And sometimes, it feels like I'm picking, but I'm just trying to make sure I understand what's going on and what kind of money we're appropriating where to and what the final project is. So look forward to spending the next 2 nights and many countless hours on this with you guys. I love it. We'll see ya.
Councilmember Collins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to all the departments that gave us information tonight. I do want to say to Crystal, I love your whiteboard, and please let our planner know she made a great Vanna White. Unfortunately, she couldn't turn the letters, but she did great tonight. I think it's really important to see the overall picture of where we are with grants, what grants cost us. It's just, there's so much involved if you get a grant. It's not just the money. There's so much involved, and I think that's important to know those things. I know sometimes we do ask a lot of questions, and I'm sure at times it seems like we are nitpicking, but we wouldn't be doing our due diligence as council members if we didn't ask those questions. And I appreciate the patience of all the departments and the mayor and administration with everybody that answers our questions and gets us the information. Because we all work together and we're all on the same team, and it takes all of us to make this work. So thank you, everybody, for all the effort you do put into it. And that's it.
Councilmember Velock.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and yeah, good meeting tonight. I did want to thank the staff for their reports. Very, very informative. Of course, the chief kind of ran out of here, but yeah, looking forward to budgets. That's always fun, and that's about it. I know, hey, you got to think positive, right? Thank you.
Councilmember Crafton.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, it was really good and probably one of the most informative meetings and reports that we've had in a long time. The chiefs getting to see the drone shot there was, it was interesting getting to see that, so I appreciate it. I had one question, mostly towards the mayor here. I was looking through the Parks and Recs minutes, and in there, the Public Works Department was giving a report around the caboose and how the caboose was going to be removed. And I just wanted to clarify that the resolution that the council had passed says that nothing's happening with the caboose right now.
Nothing is happening on anything over
Perfect.
there.
I just wanted to make sure, I know that the minutes predated our resolution, but I know we had made some comments around it, so I just wanted to clarify that was still the case. So, thank you.
Your resolution has hindered Public Works and Parks and Rec from doing their cleanup and everything in the parks. And it's gonna cost the city a lot of money to get a contractor and a park architect, so.
And looking forward to the next few days, guys. Thank you much.
Anyway, I'm glad you guys all enjoyed the,
Madam Mayor, if I may interrupt, I think I was skipped. You usually go at the end.
well, good Lord. Forbid.
If you want to skip me, that's certainly your option.
Can I skip you tonight? You got 2 minutes, so talk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Always a pleasure. So one of my favorite days of the year is coming up, Drug Take Back Day. You know, sponsored by DEA. I believe it's the 26th, which is Friday, not this, or Saturday, not this Saturday, but the next Saturday, at Fred Meyer's. DEA, an agency, will be there. We'll have a uniformed police officer there as well in the parking lot, in the front parking lot, where you can just drive by and throw whatever you want in the trash can there. Nobody's gonna ask you what it is. Nobody cares. There's no camera there taking pictures of your license plate or anything like that. This is an opportunity for you to get stuff out of your house, perhaps get stuff out of your parents' house, that is dangerous. Dangerous not only to people, but dangerous to the environment as well. You know, I mean, if you're gonna throw away 500 Centrum multivitamins, don't put them in the toilet. Take them to Drug Take Back Day and get them there where they get destroyed. They don't go into our waterways. They don't go through our sewer plant. Take them there, and they will take it. There's no questions asked. You just throw in there whatever you want. You know, hopefully not an engine block or anything like that. But please take advantage of that. And if you're unable to take advantage of the hours that they're there, you can go to the Fred Meyer Pharmacy, and the Fred Meyer Pharmacy will accept things for Drug Take Back Day. Fred Meyer's has been a great partner for us here in the Mat-Su Valley for these Drug Take Back Days. Please take advantage of that, because I think I've mentioned in the past that 85% of teen users say that their first exposure to drugs was through their household medicine cabinet. So please take a look through there and please get rid of those. Councilperson Cottle gave me that addressing sign. I would just want to remind everybody that the Mat-Su Borough, thank you, Assemblyperson, has a grant where every where every house, every structure in the Mat-Su Borough can have a sign similar to that says what their address is. Just go to your local fire station, and you fill out a form, and they make that sign and they give it to you. Unknown to most people. If you need help with a smoke detector or a CO2 alarm or something like that, the Mat-Su Borough Fire Department will help you with that as well, including installing it for you if you need that sort of assistance. So let's take advantage of this. We lose way too many structures to fire every year, and it's very difficult for our Mat-Su Borough Fire Department to respond to some addresses because, it's been the same address for 40 years, but they haven't been there 40 years. So please take advantage of that addressing opportunity there. Great presentation today. I really appreciate that. Madam Clerk, you did mention some graduation dates. If you could forward those to me, I'd appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Now it's my turn. Some of you were here when I first took over as mayor, and if you remember, I finished paying the city out of debt. Since then, we have remained debt-free. And as you've seen tonight, we've worked really hard and diligently to bring grants and stuff to the city to upgrade the sewer and water till, that we could, in the airport, till we could continue to have the growth that we are experiencing. Because without infrastructure, we are not gonna have the growth. They won't come. Because Hilton wanted to come for Arctic Winter Games, and they couldn't because we couldn't provide the water for them. So with that, the interconnect, it helps with that, with the pressure. And unlike Palmer thinking that we're going to steal their water, no, we're not. We have our own water. This is just a backup deal, and as Mr. Sumner said, it helps with the dense housing, which we are in desperate need of. So anyway, I think that my team, I'm very proud of them because they do an excellent job. And let me iterate to the council again. If you, like Ms. Rubio, you want to know more about whatever when you get your package, tell the clerk and come and meet with Eric and Cassie, and you can get it all laid out before you ever get here, And my door is open. You have to, it's a process. The clerk has a process. I have a process. All of the departments have processes because that's the only way we can work smoothly.